here's the basic idea. Building your podcast is like building a house. Now, we could also say building your online presence is like building a house. Welcome back to The Christian Podcaster. I'm your host, as always, Eric Nevins, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. I'm glad that you have joined us for this rebooted version of The Christian Podcaster. Yes, The Christian Podcaster existed. I started it long ago, and I pod faded. I'm not going to hide that from, if you go back, there's about 18 episodes from, 2021, somewhere in there, about featuring some of my great friends in podcasting. You should definitely check that out. But we're starting new with a blank slate. Here's what The Christian Podcaster is all about right now. We are going to be talking about the craft and the business of podcasting for Christians. Whether you want your podcast to become a ministry, a full-fledged ministry, maybe it's a start of something that's just kind of a little thought in the back of your head. I know how that is because that's how Christian Podcasters Association started. Or it's a hobby that you're just like, I want to just share a message with the world. Or maybe you have a business and you are a Christian and your show isn't explicitly Christian, but you want to engage and you want a community of Christians to help talk about podcasting. That's what we do here, not only on the show, but also in Christian Podcasters Association. This, by the way, is the official podcast of Christian Podcasters Association. The place to start is our free Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search Christian Podcasters Association. You will find us there. Join the group. It's completely free. Okay, so let's dive in today. So in this reboot, I thought what we would do is I want to introduce a concept to you. I want to share something that we're going to call How to Get Started Podcasting. Now, this is a presentation I did for some friends recently, and I think that maybe you will have some, get some value out of it as well. Okay, so let's share that. Let's dive right into our content. All right, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about me since this is our reboot. Again, my name is Eric Nevins. I founded Christian Podcasters Association way back in 2017. Before that, about a year before that, I started a podcast called Halfway There. Now, that podcast took me 2 years to start because I was riddled with insecurity, with imposter syndrome, with all the things, trying to get it, thinking my show had to be perfect. But I did get it started. I hired a coach. That's how I did that. My friend Tim Morris, shout out to Tim, who I know listens to my stuff every once in a while. So that was in 2016. Finally got the show launched just last year. Halfway There, past 600,000 downloads. I just saw this week it passed 640,000 downloads, which is kind of incredible to me. The show's been incredibly successful. I get to talk to a whole bunch of people that I love talking to, whether they are some of my heroes, people publishing books that are really influential today, or ordinary, everyday Christians. That's what I do on my show. We tell a story about the Christian journey. Your show could be different, but that's okay. That's what I do. Christian Podcasters Association has grown to about 3,000, almost 300 people, probably by the time you've seen this. And we provide a variety of products and services for Christian podcasters just like you, including our gold membership, which is our membership for podcasters like you who want to grow, who have kind of done the work and you've got the show started, but you actually want to go to the next level and move toward monetization. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. Here's our goal for this conversation. First of all, we're going to look at the big picture. I want you to have an idea of how the nuts and bolts of podcasting fit into creating a podcast overall, because there's something that happens when people want to start a show. So this is for you. If you want to start a podcast, I'm going to give you some overall tips here at the very beginning. Okay. So, but I'm going to explain how all of that stuff goes into actually starting a show. And then I'm going to give you an overview of the hardware and the software that you need. It's not as much as you think. So I'm going to explain some of that. And then also I'm going to give you three approaches, easy for me to say, based on your budget, based on how much money you want to spend and invest into your podcast up front. Great news. You don't have to invest a ton of money, but maybe just a little bit, I would recommend as well. Okay, so let's dive into this. I'm going to, first of all, give you a big picture. Over the next few months, I'm going to share with you my sort of big picture vision for what you do when you start your podcast. Remember when I said that it took me 2 years to start my show? Part of that was because some of these things I was working out in my head, and I wasn't doing it full time, and I was it was just in the back of my mind, and I was a little bit depressed, and there's all these things, right, where I was just trying to figure it out. Well, a lot of those principles that I was starting with, I've distilled down now into this 5-step plan for taking your podcast from your mindset to your monetization, right? So that's what we're going to do. And I have this metaphor that I like to use. I want to explain it to you because if you're starting out with your podcast, you might be confused. You might think the first thing you need is a microphone. And I'm going to say yes and amen, you do need a microphone, but I'll tell you that comes later. So let me explain to you this kind of overall metaphor that I've developed that will help you maybe understand all the different parts of building a podcast. Okay. So having said that, let's dive in to the metaphor, and then I'm going to give you those ideas about what you can purchase as well. Okay. So here's the basic idea. Building your podcast is like building a house. Now we could also say building your online presence is like building a house, right? And your podcast is part of your online presence. But let's just start and go with your podcast specifically, okay? Now, because I went to seminary, I'm contractually obligated to alliterate, and so I've made these 5 M's that go together that we can discuss. So hopefully they can be memorable. So the first one is mindset. And your mindset, when you build a house, what's the first thing you build? You build the foundation. You gotta dig a hole, right? You gotta clear some things away. You have to put in some bricks and lay some concrete, right? That's what your house is going to sit on. And you have to prepare all that, prepare the ground for that. And I think a lot of podcasters miss this. Your mindset is really, really important. I'm going to go into that and some of the things that belong in your mindset, some of the things you have to take out of your mindset in a later episode. But this is where everything rests. And a couple of things you do absolutely have to believe. You need to believe that you have a message to share, right? You got to know that you've got something that's really important. This often is like a fire in your bones, right? The prophets talk about that. You got to have that because it's going to be hard. And anything that you got to be willing to do anything to share it, even get over those hard things. There's going to be a time, I can promise you, if you start a show in 2023 or whenever you're listening to this, there's going to be a time when you have published a great episode that you really love and it gets less than downloads than you normally get, or you're going to go for months and you're seeing double-digit downloads. You're like, when am I going to hit triple digits, or when am I going to hit 4 digits for downloads every single episode? That can be discouraging. I have some tips and tricks for how to keep yourself motivated in that. And we could talk about that later, but you have to have this belief. Part of your mindset has to be, because you have this message to share, because you feel like God's given it to you, because it's a part of the things that God has created for you to do from before the beginning of the world, that you'll do anything to share it, even the hard things, even persevering past all those things. Okay, that's mindset. There's a lot more to that, and I'll get into it in a different episode. Okay, then the next one is message, right? And your message is the structure. So once you build the foundation of a house, the next thing you see go up is the framing of the house. And usually this is 2x4s, and they kind of build it all up, and they put in doorways and windows and headers and all those things, right? Well, that's the structure, and everything else in your house holds on those. Your message for your podcast is the structure. Now, for my show, my idea was I wanted people who are going through the dark night of the soul to understand that there's light at the end of that tunnel, that it can feel the spiritual desert, to mix my metaphors, can feel like a very difficult place to be when you feel like God's maybe far away and it's just really spiritually dry. But on the other side of the desert is an oasis where there's a lot of intimacy with God, right? That is a normal part of the journey, and that was part of my goal. Well, that's part of my message, right? And that kind of shaped everything else about my show, including the structure, the format, the kind of guests that I pursue, all of that kind of thing, the kind of questions that I ask, right? Your framework holds everything else up. And it's very, very important for you to have a message and to nail that at the beginning. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to stay with it forever. So you need to spend a little time, but not too much time on your message because you're going to tweak it as you get more feedback from your audience, right? As that audience grows. But your message is what holds everything else up, okay? Here's the beautiful part. Your message will hold everything up even if your audio is not perfect. And that's good news for those of you who want to start a show because you don't have to nail it. You don't have to get your audio perfect the first try. This is what held me up. I thought nobody's going to listen to me because why would anybody listen to me and I don't even know what I'm doing with audio? Well, that's not true today, right? 6-7 years later, I think we're almost to 7 years here in June of 2023. It'll be 7 years that I started my show. My audio is much, much better, right? I know what to do. I know how to handle a microphone, all that. And you will too. That's the point. But your audio doesn't have to be perfect to start. I hope that's encouraging to you. Okay, so the next one is, and this is what we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about after I finish running through all of these, is the mechanics. Okay, so we have mindset, message, and mechanics. And when you're in your house, the mechanics are all the things that that make your house work, that hopefully you set up one time and you never have to think about again, right? So what am I talking about? Your plumbing. God willing, you never have to think about your plumbing, right? If you have good plumbing and it's all set up, you never worry about it. You just turn on the faucet. You just flush the toilet. You just run the dishwasher, right? Everything is fine. It's a problem if you are seeing water, right? That's an issue. Electricity. You flip the switch, it comes on because you set up the electricity one time and it works. Your HVAC, your heating, your cooling, all that kind of stuff are systems and tools to help your house feel comfortable. Well, in podcasting, let's connect that. The mechanics of your podcast are the systems and tools that you use to deliver your podcast. So this is some of the things like your microphone, if you have a mixer or some sort of interface to go to that. So all the hardware that you need, the software that you need to edit your show, to add music, the hosting that you need for it to go. And I'm going to talk about all those things in just a minute. Those are the things, hopefully, you do them one time and then they're good to go. And so you see why I tell people don't start here. These are one-time decisions. The other things that we talked about already, your mindset and your message, those are decisions that last and that set your show up for long-term success. Does that make sense? Really, really important. Okay, so mechanics. I'm going to give you some tips. So if you're just wanting to start your podcast, this episode is for you. I'm going to give you some ideas for what you can purchase here in a minute. But let me finish this framework. Okay, so step 4 is marketing. Marketing attracts people to your message. And when we talk about a house, I think of this as your curb appeal, right? So you plant some flowers, you plant some bushes, you plant some trees, you mow the grass, you know, all that kind of stuff. You make it look nice. And that's your curb appeal, right, for your show. So the way to think about this, there's lots of things in marketing. Once again, in a future episode, I will dive into what those things are. But marketing is what attracts people. It's what makes people say, hey, I'd love to go sit on that porch, sit in that community that this podcaster is creating and have a lemonade with that podcaster because I think they get my struggle. Marketing is what makes that happen. So a lot of people get a little bit discouraged with marketing, or they don't want to promote themselves. You're not promoting yourself. I'll talk about that later. You're promoting your message because you know some people need to hear it. That's a whole different deal. Okay. Marketing attracts people. Lastly, monetization. This is where everybody wants to go, right? So even if your goal is like, I just want it to not cost me anything, I have some great options for you, by the way, for that. But that's something that you can do. Monetization is what makes your show productive. So I have a picture of like a rain barrel in my head, right? Where you collect the rain that falls onto your property, or a garden, right? Then the rain barrel feeds the garden and the garden becomes productive, makes your land productive. That's what happens. So that's my 5-step framework. And this works for everybody. Now there's much more to each one of these. I'm going to be talking about it. I mentioned that already. But hopefully that gives you the overall scope of what we're talking about here. So when you're podcasting, I want you to understand that you actually have more, there's more to it than just getting your microphone. All right, but let's say you are starting. Let's say you're just getting going and you'd like to know, like, what do I do? What do I purchase? What do I need to have? Okay. I'm going to give you the basic podcasting hardware and software that you need to get going. Now, here's the great deal. Great news. Remember I said it wasn't as hard as you think? Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. I know it was for me, held me back for a long time. Doesn't have to hold you back. All you need is 4 components. Okay. First one, voice capture. You need a microphone. And so I will recommend that you purchase one. And we'll talk about that at 3 different levels. Okay. So then you need some sort of recording device. Good news, there's free ways to do that with your computer. Most of us have internet these days. It's totally different today than it used to be. Then you need some editing software, and then you need an online home for your audio. That's it. 4 things. Okay. So I'm going to go through those 4 things at 3 different levels based on your budget. Are you ready? Okay. I hope you're with me. Level number 1, let's say you want to start a podcast and you're eager to do it, but you don't have a huge budget and you're not going to invest like thousands of dollars. I don't blame you. You shouldn't. You should just get started. You can always grow and iterate along the way. I'm going to talk about iteration a lot because that was one of my big epiphanies as I started podcasting. But so here, level 1, let's go through those 4 things. Number 1, you need a microphone. I recommend that you buy an Audio-Technica ATR 2100. That is the one that I generally tend to use. And I think it would be a good one for you. It is a simple mic, but here's the beautiful thing about it. What it does, it's a dynamic microphone, which I didn't mention. You should always get a dynamic microphone, not a condenser microphone. The reason that I recommend the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 is because it's a mic that you can grow with. It has 2 kinds of connections to it. So you can just use a USB straight to your computer, which is great for your Zoom calls, for all that kind of stuff. Or it has an XLR connection, which is the traditional microphone connection with the 3 prongs, and you can grow with it when you are ready to add something like a mixer or something outside of your traditional level, right? So that's traditional, just plugging straight into your computer. Okay. So number 2 so then we got to have some way to record. I recommend Zencastr. It's completely free. You can use it. You can log in with your browser and you can record. You can download your audio and then you can edit it. Super easy. That's Zencastr. There's no E. Okay. So Zencastr, just search it. You will find it. Number 3, editing software. Here's the great news. So for those of us who want to make this way more complicated than it is, you don't have to worry about your editing software. I think this is one place where people get hung up a little bit. They're like, oh, it's so hard. I don't know what to do. It's actually really easy. There's 2 programs that are both free. If you're a PC person, get Audacity. That's completely free. If you're a Mac person, it comes with GarageBand. So easy. So easy. One of those 2. I used GarageBand for 4 years. You can too. If you're a PC person, get Audacity. It's totally fine. That will work for you. Here's the other great thing is there are YouTube videos out there for both of these programs that will show you exactly how to use them for whatever you need. So you get in, you're like, how do I do this? Search it on YouTube and you say, how do I import audio to GarageBand? There's a video that somebody will show you how to do that. Okay. How do I make a cut in Audacity? There's a video, somebody will show you how to do that. And you just keep learning one skill after another. Lastly, you need hosting. Now, Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasts, for podcasters, is completely free. I recently helped somebody set up their podcast on Anchor, and it was really easy. Not only was it easy, it had all the things on it. You could put in your artwork, you could put in video. I mean, you can do all kinds of cool stuff there. Is it the best for like stats and everything? Not necessarily. You may want to upgrade that at some point, but at least it gives you the basics and it's free and you can get it started and you can get it into all of the different platforms. No reason not to use it. A lot of people want to upgrade it later on, but I don't care. If what you need is free to get started, that's what's most important. Okay. You need to get going. That's what matters most. Okay. So that's level 1. All right. Not too bad. Okay. Again, if you're overwhelmed by all this, these slides, I have slides for these. They're going to be available on our website on the web page for this particular episode. So just go to ChristianPodcastersAssociation.com/blog, I think, and you'll find it there as well. All right, level 2. So let's say you have a little bit extra money to spend. You want to get a better microphone, and you want to get just a little bit more to it. Okay. So let's say you can get a Shure MV7. and you can get, it's about $179 right now. Prices change, so don't hold me to that. But this is a really cool mic. You're going to need to get a boom, which is that arm that attaches to your desk, so it holds your microphone up. So that might be another $50. And this is going to have everything that you need as well. Okay. Then let's say you want to also pay for a little bit of an upgrade. Although Zencastr is perfectly fine for free, you could get Riverside.fm, which a lot of people really like. It's about $15 per month to record there. That allows you, instead of like Zoom or something, higher quality audio, and allows you to make connections with people to talk as well. Okay, so that's super, super easy. Number 3, editing software. I'm still sticking with Audacity and GarageBand because those are free. Keep our costs down. And then for hosting, I would go with something like Captivate. No, there's no particular reason. To be honest with you, I think most of the hosting software, most hosting companies, you can simply, if you're paying for it, you're probably okay. That is my opinion. But I like Captivate a lot. I like their leader over there. About $17 a month. And then it goes up with your downloads, which I think is a cool feature, because if you're not getting too many downloads, you don't have to pay more, which I think is really good. But I would recommend paying for hosting. So the 2 things I always recommend that you pay for at least is a microphone and then hosting. I also want you to have a website, but that's next level. So you don't need to have that. Maybe I'll talk about that more. You let me know. If you want me to talk about why you need a website and some of that stuff, I can do that as well. Okay, level 3. This is, let's say you want to go like big bucks and you say, I'm pushing all my chips in. You got your tax return. You got your bonus from work. And you're like, I'm going to become a podcaster. What should you do? Well, the microphone that I really love is the one that I'm using right now, which is the Heil PR40. You can find that for about $350. By the way, this seems like a really good time to mention something. You do not have to spend retail on any of this equipment. Okay. So I did not buy my Heil PR40 for $350. I paid $200. Maybe it was $250. And this was years ago now. And I got it used. I think I got it on eBay. So there's 2 places. Go to eBay or go to reverb.com, where you can find used gear and, pick that up and just keep an eye on it. Just go search it until you find the deal that you're looking for. People are always selling things for different prices, but the Heil PR40 is a great mic. That's what I use. It is really just sounds good, and I think you'll like it. You can also get the Shure has a higher version as well, which is the one that like Joe Rogan uses, stuff like that. Go for that. They're about the same price, so $300 to $400. You're going to get a super quality mic, and make sure that you get that dynamic mic once again. Okay. Number 2, then I would recommend getting a Rodecaster Pro 2, which is about $700 at the moment. This the Rodecaster, when it first came out, was sort of a revolutionary product. And I'll tell you why. When I first started podcasting and I started investing in my show, I had to buy 3 different devices in order to do what the Rodecaster did in one. Okay, so today for you, super easy. You spend some money, $700. They have the original Rodecaster, which I think is like $400 or $500 now. I'm using a different one called the Zoom PodTrack P8, which I like as well. It's perfectly fine for me. I love it. It does a great job, does all the same kind of things, including effects, and I can add different sounds and whatever, which I'm not going to bother you with right now. But it records externally. And the reason that is great is because if you have a Zoom, you're talking, and it goes onto onto the solid state drive here, and your Zoom goes down, you don't lose anything, right? It just goes straight onto there. So that's kind of a nice feature. I had some moments where that would have been nice early on that I didn't have before I had that. So if you can spend a little bit of money, I highly recommend getting one of those 2 machines. And if you want a super simple editing software that's $10 a month, get Hindenburg. Love Hindenburg. I use it. I switched over. So I told you I used GarageBand for about 4 years, and then I switched over to Hindenburg in 2020, and I'm so glad that I did. It is a wonderful program. I use it literally every week to edit my podcast, to add things. I have a little template set up, and then I bring things in, and it's just much, much easier to use, worth the $10 a month. We have, by the way, If you hear this, you want a discount on an annual purchase, let me know. I have that for you, but you got to let me know as well. Okay. And the last thing that I, again, would recommend paying for hosting. Again, go to Captivate, but you can go to any of them to make that work. Okay. So last thing I want to give you, this is kind of a bonus. All right. I want to give you a podcast episode workflow for how to go about this. So this is called How to Get Started Podcasting. I want you to see what it's like beginning to end. Okay. Here's the workflow. Pre-production. So before you hit record, here's what you're going to do. You're going to outline your content. If it's a monologue like this, like I'm doing right now, you want to outline your content so you know what you're going to say. Now, some people like to write that out unless you're very, very good at saying it without sounding like you're reading it. I don't recommend that necessarily. But if you can do that, then fine. That's up to you. I like an outline. I learned this while I was studying for preaching. I much prefer an outline so I can know where I'm going, at least. That's helpful. Or prepare for an interview. That's going to be a whole different subject, preparing for an interview. I like interviews. But in fact, I do a lot of them. I've done a lot of them. I would recommend, if you're going to do an interview, knowing where you want to go, having a few questions based on the person's experience and their expertise and the things that they're trying to share. So be ready for that. Then you're going to record. Okay. So that's the second one. This is actually production, right? So test your audio levels. That's one I learned the hard way, right? You want to make sure that you can see that everybody is getting recorded. You have a nice audio signal. If it's come from Zoom or Zencaster or wherever, make sure you can see that. Don't forget to hit record. I've done that before. That's not cool. Make sure you've got plenty of space in your SD card or wherever you're recording, because so if you're online, that doesn't matter. But for me, that does. That stinks when it runs out. You don't want that either. So be very, very careful. And then in your content, you want to do this. You want to do an introduction. You want to do a call to action. So your introduction is going to be introducing yourself, making a promise to your audience about what they're going to get. Then you do a call to action. Hey, go hit us up on our website. Why don't you join us over here? Whatever. Then you dive into your content. Okay. Then you conclude and you wrap up with a call to action as well. Once again, hey, come to our website, come download our free thing. Why don't you join us? Hit us in our Facebook group, whatever it is, those kinds of things. Okay. And then in post-production, you're going to edit your audio. You're going to add some music. I didn't even talk about music. You can get music from lots of places, but make sure you pay for it. You're going to edit it, add all that stuff, upload your audio. You're going to create some show notes. I've got a whole bunch of stuff for that. And then you're going to schedule and share it on social. Okay. That is it. Now I'm guessing you may have some questions. And so if you do, there's a couple ways you can get those to us as well. What I would love for you to do is to go into the Facebook group, Facebook.com/Christian Podcasters Association. You can go there, just search Christian Podcasters Association on Facebook and join the group. And we'll get you in, and then you'll be able to ask your questions in there. I answer all the time, or someone else will. You can also find me, Eric Nevins, on Facebook, and you can always hit message, and you can reach out to me. A lot of people do that literally every day. I would love to talk to you and even set up a call if that's something that you want to do. Okay, friends. So again, we have so many resources, but the first step for you, if you're just listening, just getting started, go to ChristianPodcastersAssociation.com. Make sure you sign up for our mailing list and get into that Facebook group as well. Friends, that's it. This is how to get started in podcasting. I hope it's been helpful. Let me know. All right. We'll catch you in the next episode.